Big shout out to Bean Working Espresso down in Skyring Terrace, Newstead.
Best coffee in the game.
Best absolute coffee in the game. Hooking the Platform podcast, and any listeners up with a 10% discount.
Shout out.
Shout out to Yolanda.
Yolanda.
That was a mouthful.
Their coffee's real fucking good. Get
Best coffee in the game, by far. Just opened up Skyring Terrace. You can order ahead and mention the Platform podcast for a 10% discount. This is the Platform podcast with B-Bad and Brandon.
We're out of sync.
That was a very out of sync clap.
That's a great start.
We started off with a bang, one would say.
A clap.
I'm going to leave that alone.
Yeah, I was like, let's just leave that there because I heard something different and we all know where that could go. Welcome to the Platform podcast with your hosts, Johnny B. Bad and Brandon Greco, and we are joined by Katie Maree.
Crowd goes well.
Crowd did go wild, and that was mainly Katie doing that then.
Good crowd noise, though.
I'm a big fan of myself.
Yeah, Johnny.
Ready?
Okay.
She's like, I have no idea what's coming.
You have 21 words counted by him, including the sounds that you make.
Let me get them all
would
out
be
first.
counted, just so you know. Not yet, though. Who you are and what you do. Go.
I am a soul having a human experience. I am
10.
in Earth University, learning unconditional love, consciousness, self-sovereignty, and teaching it to others.
22, but we'll accept it. Well done.
Damn. That's a good one.
Yeah, mind blown.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah, we should have all had coffee before this one.
I've got some here if you want the rest of it.
Would you say it's delicious?
It tastes like asshole. Not into it.
I looked at it. Coffee in a can should not exist.
Yeah, that's what I said. Have some Alzheimer's.
That's like, where did you get it from?
Well, it was given to me by that company, so
Oh, so it's
a
you're
freebie.
just trying to palm it off to me.
and it's
Next
okay.
time, Katie, you just message me and
So
I get you
cheap.
good coffee.
Yeah, they're just shut now.
They did.
No, our coffee place.
Oh yeah,
That's
Bean
why
working.
we had to go with this one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, Bean working. Your coffee's better.
best coffee in the game.
Yeah. Now, Katie, you said on the Instagrams, knowing me, it will end up at least one tangent about Vagina Magic or conscientious business, and that was in reference to a photo of our podcast logo. I
Yes.
think we should skip the business because that's in like comparison. That sounds very boring compared to Vagina Magic.
Well, funnily enough, it's pretty much the same thing.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
How do they align?
Can we start with what is Vagina Magic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Vagina Magic is 2 nouns.
You're fired.
No, so it's something that I teach to some of my students that are obviously mainly my female students. So it's more about consciously connecting with the creative space in your womb area as a woman. Mm-hmm. As you guys probably know, if you don't, you're about to know, our space there is a little bit bigger. So that's where your sacral chakra is in terms of your chakra alignments in your body. And that's where all of your creative energy, imagination, self-worth, all of those things come from. So women who are connected, actually the vagus nerve connects the cervix to the larynx as well. And there's an idea in like Hindu philosophy that women who can harness the power of their cervix and send that up through their vagus nerve to their larynx can always speak their truth.
Cool. And you help other women do that?
Yes.
Essentially.
Vagina Magic.
Vagina Magic. Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How did you stumble across
I was sort of...
Vagina Magic?
It's a bit of a like conglomerate of things that I learned from different teachers that I've had from my travels around the world. Mm-hmm. So there was my main teacher for a couple of years was a Hindu high priestess in Bali. She touched on it a little bit, and then I met some students through her who were Kundalini coaches, and they helped me refine.
What was that? Sorry,
Kundalini yoga coach.
Okay,
yeah. Who sort of like helped me refine and understand better the ideology behind that.
Oh, cool.
Wow. And how long have you been, I guess you're always learning, but moved into the space of sort of trying to help others with this?
With this particular thing, probably the last few years, I started a sort of like a meeting space for women called a Red Tent Day, which isn't a new philosophy. There's lots of people that hold Red Tent Days around the world. And that's basically It's like an emulation of a practice that we used to have as women in tribe, where around the time of menstruation, women would go into a red tent together and they would learn about midwifery, idol worship, all things feminine from their feminine elders.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And how often do you have
started
those?
doing that. I used to do them one every month.
Yep.
But when I started taking my immersions overseas to Bali in India and also running the Tattoo Vampire and the other businesses, there was a little bit less time to maintain that.
More pies than fingers. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Now, you haven't always been in this lane, though.
No.
No.
I've been in some interesting lanes
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah, bazillions of exciting, interesting jobs.
Yeah. So I think I started when I came out of school just doing regular admin work, and then that sort of evolved into doing corporate legal work. I've been a veterinary nurse. I've worked on latent defect reporting for military helicopters.
Did you know anything about helicopters?
Absolutely not. I lied at my interview to get the job. Got a military pass, like, to get into the airport and stuff, and I think it took them about 2 years to realise that I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with their helicopters. So,
What did you do? Like, what was the job in?
well, the job was doing reporting to government officials on the MRH-90 helicopters. So they were retiring the Black Hawks for the military.
And you
So,
must have learned a lot about helicopters.
I mean,
You could be a pilot.
I learnt enough to not get fired for
Bullshit
2
your way
years.
through it.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Did you read a book or something?
No. See, I was like, I've built a drift car before. A helicopter can't be that different, right? It's a lot different.
Drift car.
I can tell you it's
flies
a
around
lot.
corners
Yeah,
and
it's a
flies
lot
in the air.
different. Very different.
Did
That's
you
awesome.
drift car as well?
Yeah, I did that for a little while.
As well? Fuck. Do
Yeah.
you still have it?
No, I've had 3 of them, but I lost my license, so
Oh, you can't find it anymore?
no.
Oh,
No, so yeah.
get off the podcast.
Ba-dum.
That's terrible. The only person laughing at that right now is Luke Poley going,
He
that's the
gets it.
greatest
He
dad
gets
joke
me.
ever.
No, yeah, actually I went overseas for a year, so I sold them all before I left, and
Yep.
then I didn't get back into it when I came
Yep.
home. So now I've got a motorbike instead.
Drifting with the motor?
Absolutely not. No.
So where have your travels taken you? Because you said you did a lot of
Oh,
travel.
yeah. So I've been to a lot of places. I started in Europe, so I think I was 22 when I started. I'd been through a lot of shit in my life up until that point, and it was the first time I really didn't feel like being here anymore. So I was kind of like at my wit's end, and I was like, what would I like to do before I die? That's the kind of space that I was in. And one of the things was obviously see the planet that I live on.
Yep.
So that was just an alignment, I suppose, for me in my personal journey to awaken and to end up being in the position that I'm in now. So I started in England, and then I went to France, Italy, Austria, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Germany, Holland, Fiji, Canada, Mexico, Guatemala,
Everywhere.
El Salvador. Yeah,
Were you
like
working
all
along the
over.
way, just
No.
picking up, oh, fuck, that's even better.
Yeah, just
Just
kicking around.
traveling. Were you
Yeah.
learning anything at the time? Was it just a pure, like, let's just go see the world?
I just wanted some freedom.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, I just wanted to go and figure out. It was really like the start of me figuring out my why.
Yep.
Like, rather than who do I want to be, it was like, why do I want to be? Like,
Did you
I'd-
start with the idea in mind of you wanted to be something? Or was it just a blank canvas, let's just go fucking experience shit?
I was just really unhappy.
Yep.
So you don't have all the answers to life when you're 22.
Fuck no.
And I'd been,
At 22, I think most people think they do, though.
well, for sure. But you have to run with that, don't you?
Yeah.
It's one foot in front of the other. So you can only do what you can do with the tools that you've got at the time in your belt. And, you know, like, you don't get extra tools until you
Probably
have
have a belt then too.
extra experience. So, yeah, and I think I'd been through quite a lot of trauma by that age as well. My dad took his life when I was 15, and then I moved out when I was 16. I'd had a series of pretty horrible relationships. So I was like, if like this is where I'm at now and all of this stuff has happened, where do I want to be? So that this, like, I don't attract this to myself anymore.
Yeah, 100%. And along that journey, obviously, did you discover that why? Or was it the beginning of, you know, I'm starting to kind of get an idea of what I want to do, and this is why?
I think it was more like just finding my footing. So figuring out what the really bad shit was that I needed to unlearn, uncondition from myself, and then fine-tuning it over the years that came after. So I didn't really have a moment where I was like, oh, I'm going to be a tattooist and
Yep.
I'll end up having like all of these businesses and all of this stuff. it was more like learning to surrender and trust the process, that if I put the right foot forward, then the next right foot will follow.
I really like how you said you have to unlearn all the bad things, because obviously when we're born, come into the world, whatever
100%.
you want to fucking say, it's like we're a blank canvas, and we learn all these negative behaviours, bad patterns and things like that from our environment, people around us, all that type of thing.
Correct. I call it the culture scape.
Yep.
So it's like you're given this circumstance where you become conscious in a set of rules and boundaries.
That's created by everything in your environment. That's
right. And it's also like every moment that you step into, that the things and ideas in that moment are something that someone has, it's a past tense, somebody has already thought of that, and that has shaped what you're stepping into.
Yep.
So if you're the kind of person who's not really in an awakening process yet, then you will have thought processes like, why is this happening to me? Mm-hmm. You know, like, poor me, I'm the victim. You learn that, like, this is just what you have to work with, and you don't understand that you can shape that reality.
You don't understand you can change it either.
Well, you don't have choices, because you've learnt that you don't. You've learnt that you get married, you get a job. You know, you have enough.
That's the rules for life, pretty much.
That's like the structure of the culture scape of what you're fitting into. But once you start awakening to, instead of like doing the whole, what can I learn from this, instead of why is this happening to me?
Yep.
Once you shift into that mentality, then there's other stages after that too. And when you start observing all of those things around you, the third stage is recoding yourself. So that's like...
What was that process like for you?
Well, I think largely I'm still in that process. I think the place where you land after recoding is just being an extraordinary human. So integrating all of that.
Do you ever think that process stops?
No.
I agree.
No, I don't. I think that there's no such thing really as an extraordinary human. I think that you might be extraordinary in some ways, but to hold yourself to a standard where you're a meta-human is a fairly...
it's almost unrealistic.
It's completely unrealistic, but it's something admirable to strive towards, and it's something useful to do with your time while you're here.
100%. I believe like we can live by a certain, like, I guess, code, rule, whatever, but to believe that we can be the most... to believe we can be like the most fucking God for just a random figure that we can all associate with is a bit unrealistic, because we're not perfect.
I think it also depends on your perception of what God is too. So for me personally, I am very well aware that I'm living in a 3D reality, and I also believe that I have other dimensional selves in other realities.
For people, can you explain your 3D reality for people listening who may not understand?
Yeah, so like we're obviously living in 3D at the moment, and that is governed by rules and dualities and modalities that we obviously can't leave physically the 3D, but the whole idea of ascension is using 4D is like moving into 5D. So that's what we were just talking about, that whole awakening process, recoding, all of that sort of stuff. The 5D reality is existing at that level, and that's the goal for us at the moment as a collective consciousness, is to get into that 5D. So that's living in a place of non-judgment, understanding that there is no separation, that like I am you, you are me, that dumbbell is also you, like energy is just, there's no such thing as things. That's 3D.
Everything's just an energy, everything's a frequency and energy, and everything vibrates on a certain frequency.
Correct, yeah. So, and we've got this meat suit thing to do.
We're just living entities in it.
We're the human popsicle. We get little human popsicles to do.
Oh, damn, I did again.
Yes.
Sorry, no.
But yeah, so
to do what we're doing with what we've got.
We're just like, we're a human body experiencing. Wait, did I say that right? You're our
meat
soul.
Popsicle.
Sorry?
You're a meat popsicle.
You have a flesh prison.
I know, right?
Flesh prison. That's even better.
Flesh prison.
Yeah, I think it's important to remind yourself of that also from time to time.
It brings you back down to earth a little bit and reminds you that, like, you know, I think it stops the big noting of self. Like, you're believing that you're more than... Not saying you're more than what you are, because I do believe you need to be, you know... We can have a greater purpose, and we can impact and influence and inspire others to maybe do the same thing. But, you know, I kind of look at it as coaching in a way. Like, I believe I'm a good coach. Like, I believe I'm one of the best coaches. But at the end of the day, I'm a bloke in a shed over in fucking Northgate near the airport having a good old crack. Like, And I think it's kind of that reality that you need to bring yourself back down and go, like, we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, we're all connected, and whatever good decisions you make for yourself, you make for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that has a ripple effect out into our dimensional reality. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily even like, oh, somebody's watching what you're doing on Instagram. It's a feeling. It's something that the collective consciousness can feel. Like, a lot of people will say things like, oh, I felt a really big shift in the energy today. And that's, because people are waking up and they're starting to follow their passion and their purpose, and they're starting to understand that life comes from you.
And it's a good thing you mentioned about, like, feeling that shift. Like, and you would know as well, when people really awaken and get that shift in themselves, you feel it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's really like navigating people to listen to their intuition first, because a good teacher doesn't want you to adopt their ideas or what they think or doing it their way. They want you to find the teacher in you.
Yeah. One of the best quotes is like, you can learn all the things we know, but you need to be able to apply it to your circumstances.
Yeah, that's true. And the other side of that is you can have really great communication with someone, but if you can't put that into action for yourself, inspired action, then it just remains a thought.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, so...
Do you think it's hard to hear your own intuition, or is that something you've got to learn?
I think it's a practice thing, and I think that if you can encourage people into... Meditation's not for everybody, but some kind of mindfulness, it's a lot easier to connect to that, because your left brain, the logical side of your brain, is constantly saying dumb shit, right? Like, you're not good enough, you're not big enough, you can do better than that, or whatever it is when you're focused on something. But your right brain controls your intuition, and that's a whisper. And if you have constant yelling over the whispering, you're not going to hear it.
The right side's your creative brain.
Correct. Yeah.
How much of, like, obviously a tattoo is very creative, I believe anyway. I don't know. It's probably like second nature to you, but how much does doing something creative like that help you in your daily activities?
It's like coming to the gym and training. So that's...
Do you meditate?
Every day.
And by you meditate, like this sitting on a yoga mat type style, what's your form of meditation?
I personally think that life is a meditation. That's not like me just being like, oh, life's a meditation, I don't do it. But I do different things, like different kind of mindfulness things, because I'm not very good at routine, because I'm a creative person. I don't like doing the same thing every day. It's boring as batshit. So I'll do different things, whether that be pranayama, breath. One morning I might do yoga. I might do like a guided meditation. When I was going through some health issues, I did like Transcendental Meditation, or I would imagine healing lights around my body in the morning, and before I would get out of bed, before I do anything, and I would draw in energy that's available to me from our dimensional reality to illuminate the cells in my body to help me heal.
What was it? Transcendental
Meditation. Yeah. For anyone who wants to get into that, Deepak Chopra does a lot of really cool guided meditation for Transcendental Meditation. And there's lots of different forms of mantra. It's like going clothes shopping. Anyone can find something that suits them. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, I think people get caught up in the idea of you got to sit on a yoga mat, just fucking sing. What do they say at the end? Of and all that bullshit. It's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So the whole thing is because that's the primordial sound of the universe. That's like where creativity comes from. But in all honesty, I've tried Kundalini yoga, and I really love the idea of it, and I love watching it, and I love supporting my sisters who coach that, but I just can't connect with that.
Yeah.
So I enjoy the philosophy, and I like to digest and process that, but it's not suitable. I
just think you can be mindful, as you said, living. Like, training for me is the greatest form of meditation, because it forces me to be present. I have to be present. I have to be in the moment. I have to be conscious of my breath. Like, that's meditation.
Yeah, well, that's true, because you'll pass out.
That too. But you can also control your breath, especially in what we do, like hyping ourselves up. We can get hyped up just by controlling our breath, and then...
So do you guys do breathwork classes, or do you ever offer that to your...
I dabble a little bit into some basic breathing work when a client first starts, and teach them about where to breathe in the specifics of lifting. And then as they become more aware of that, then we kind of go further, and I'll send them information around breathing mechanics. And then once they understand the mechanics, we go in further into the psychology behind it, I guess.
Would you ever do a breathwork class where you someone could guide you into finding stored emotional trauma through breathing?
I've done a bit of that stuff through my own psychology endeavors, through own trauma and learning how the breath impacts, I guess, my physiology. I've never done a class, so to speak, and unlocking trauma and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
but
That's powerful.
yeah, that would be like insane.
Yeah, so to witness is quite overwhelming to watch people, because that's also self-guided usually. If you have a good facilitator who's really experienced in that whole breathwork healing thing, it's very personal to each person. It's not really like a cereal box, like everybody gets the same experience kind of thing.
That would be pretty.
You'd see some pretty gnarly stuff happening in a thing like that, I imagine.
Yeah.
That'd be huge.
And how do you like stumble across all this stuff?
I just believe that it was meant for me. So that's why I always keep coming back to just take the right step, just the next step that's the right step, the best decisions that you can make for yourself in each and every moment. And then you don't have to worry about what's meant for you or what's not meant for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And that comes from trusting that intuition?
It's all about surrender, which used to be really hard for me because I used to be a control freak. I had a lot of trauma in my childhood and as a young woman.
When you say surrender, do you mean surrender to the feeling, the thoughts?
And vulnerability as well. I think it's really hard for people to employ softness. It was very hard for me individually to connect with any kind of softness because I was stuck in endurance for so long. And that's what happens when you're coded by trauma. And people will say things to you like, oh my God, you're so strong. But what they really mean is, oh my God, you can take a lot and that's really shit. And you don't want anyone to be in a position where they're constantly
in trauma,
surviving and having to endure stuff.
Yep.
So surrender for me is softness. It's connecting with that energy and allowing and connecting with flow and, things like the Zen philosophy of upaya, which basically means state of flow. Learning how to navigate things the most peaceful way to get where you want to go. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, if you have a ship down a river or whatever in the flow, that doesn't mean there's not going to be rocks there or things that could hurt you. But the more you practice that, you get in a state of flow and you know where that shit is going to be and you know what decisions you're going to make that could possibly put you in a position where you're going to hit a rock.
Yep.
So you don't.
Yeah. Hopefully we learn.
It's discipline and discernment.
Yep.
And is this all similar sort of stuff you'll do when you put together your retreats, when you bring your sort of groups of people?
It is a lot, but it's intuitive as well.
Just to sort of the group and who's there. And
so I'll have a look at
needs.
the people who are coming. Sometimes it's mixed, sometimes it's just women, sometimes I have a lot of men.
Yep.
And not to be separatist or whatever, but men and women inherently have different emotional traumas usually
of course.
that they need to overcome. And there's different things that you need to do in order to activate those.
Yeah, wow. And what about tattooing for you? How do you, because you talk about this story about how you just sort of trust something and you'll just sort of, you almost, I guess, maybe fall into it and then you start doing it. Is that kind of how that came about for you?
So getting into tattooing is another story. It's a big story, but I'll try and condense it. So
We got time.
Yeah.
Katie, I need to go to bed.
Yeah, we put 5 hours aside. We're good. We got food.
Oh, come on, man. I've been working all day. I'm
Got more
tired.
Great delicious
I can't do it.
beverages in a cup.
Nobody ever said they were delicious, nor will they ever say whether they were delicious.
When I got into tattooing, I was really unhappy with my life and I was working in corporate legal. I'd been through a domestic violence relationship. I lost everything I owned, not once but twice.
Fuck.
Quite a lot of money gone. Yeah. And I just really fucking hated my job. I was getting sexually harassed at work. I was like...
So it's a great place to work.
Pretty much.
Fuck.
Yeah, I hated my boyfriend. I didn't like where I lived. It was just shit. And I was like, well... I thought about my travel I'd done when I was a bit younger and I was like, what is my why? Like, I've always been an artist ever since I was young. People told me I couldn't make money from that, but fuck people.
Yes.
Like, whose bullshit rules are those? Why have I been following someone else's rules this whole time? It's shit. So I quit.
Yep. How did you quit?
Well, it's a bit of a Hollywood resignation. So I printed out all of the messages from the manager who'd been sexually harassing me and took them to HR and demanded that they pay me 80% of my wage whilst I did my apprenticeship or I'd sue them. And then I lit up a joint on the way out of the building held it up to the smoke alarms in the elevator, trying to set the smoke alarms off. So everyone would have to evacuate.
Everyone got an
And I'd be
afternoon
like,
off as
"Bye,
well."
guys. Have fun. Hope you enjoy working in fucking hell for the rest of your life.
That's the fucking greatest.
Yeah, really wish
Yeah.
you filmed that.
So me too. Full I think it was raining that day too, and I had a yellow polka dot umbrella and like bright pink shoes, and I think I wore my pajama pants into work with like with
What job was
suit.
this?
I can't say the company, but I worked
Oh,
in
industry.
mining industry.
Oh,
corporate
yeah.
legal and mining industry.
That's the best.
Yeah. So
That's like the ultimate fuck you, I'm out.
yeah, like borderline mental breakdown / fuck you.
/ inspiring, empowering moment for you.
Yeah, later in life.
Yeah.
And then I rang a friend of mine, who's still a very good friend of mine, who had a tattoo shop, and asked him to teach me how to use machines.
Yeah. And then that was it.
Go time.
What was it like being an apprentice coming through?
I had to,
And perhaps maybe a bit more male dominated.
very much so, which is why my business is the way it is now. But I had to accept a lesser version of myself for a while I was an apprentice. So I had to go back to living with other people, which I don't do very well. Going from earning $500 a day to $500 a week.
Oh,
Myriad of other things. Like I just mentioned before, I'd lost pretty much everything I owned. So I had my clothes in my room and my car and my ambition.
yeah, and your ambition.
Yeah.
That's-
So, yes. And then I finished my apprenticeship, and then I went and started working in a big kind of like production shop with 13 other artists, and they were all men, which is fun.
Yeah.
But they were all cunts. So, not so fine.
Not so fine.
And yeah, it kind of escalated, and it got to the point where I was getting paid less and I was being bullied. And again, like the manager was trying to sexually harass me and sending me inappropriate shit. And I was like, dude, I just want to do art. Like, can you fuck off? Like, my vagina is not a part of my job description. This time, back it the fuck up. I just got sick of it. I did it for 3 years, and I was like, surely if I'm copying this, other women are
You have
in
to.
the industry.
Surely, yeah.
So I connected with a few other women, and I was like, I'm just going to do it myself.
Yep. Fuck it.
So then I started Black Ivy,
opened
and
the shop.
yeah, it was a little shoebox when I started. It was like me and 1 or 2 other people, and now there's like 10 staff in the shop.
That's because
10 women.
you've moved. You had somewhere smaller.
Yeah, so I had a little one, and then I renovated it and made it a big one.
Yep.
The area was shit. I didn't like it. The landlord treated us like a novelty. Told me that I should put a stripper pole in the front
Yeah,
of
right.
our lobby.
That's
just
meant
like
to help with business.
perpetuating that whole like sexualizing women in the industry thing.
Yeah, right. Fucking hell.
Yeah. And then he brought through, I'm going to say the McDonald's of tattooing, and tattooers will know who that is. He brought that company through my shop when I was in India on holidays, and they started sizing up my shop to
Really?
take it over.
Get fucked.
Yeah. So I just booked the lease at Chermside, and we scooted the fuck on out of there.
Yep.
Wow. Where were you originally, sorry?
In Lutwich,
Where in Lutwich?
on Lutwich Road.
Oh, I know where you're at. And then you moved to Hamilton and
And then we moved to Chermside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That place is big and
It's around the same size, but it's a better layout because I
Yeah.
got to design it, obviously, from start to
so
finish
from
that
ground
time.
up everything you wanted.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And-
But I'm kind of at the point now where I don't have enough desks. Like, I keep getting women like, I really want to work here. I'm like, I can fucking help you. Like, you can
Damn.
sit in the kitchen.
You start running a 24/7 roster there.
Well, we do already, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I never ever ask my staff to do something that I wouldn't want to do.
Yeah.
So I don't tell anyone that they have to work 6 or 7 days a week or whatever,
Yeah.
but the demand is there, and I trust all of my staff. They all have keys to the shop. They
Yep.
can work as much or as little to their minimum hours as they want.
Yep.
But they're invested in the brand because they understand that their boss knows that they built it.
Yep.
So
That's a sign of good leadership.
Yep.
And trickles down. Like, you've obviously instilled what you've done, and they've bought into, or not bought in, but they believe in your why.
yeah, well, they are my why.
Exactly.
So, and like all of us, that's that whole zero separation thing, which is something else that I coach, is conscious business. So you need to, in my opinion, conscious business is not only liberating yourself, but liberating other people as well. And then also giving back to your community
100%.
from that. So Yeah, the girls are all hard workers. We get a lot of like, oh my God, how do you work with all women? Like, it must be so bitchy. And it's just not. Like, I don't think we've ever even had one argument. And some of my girls have been there for 4 years.
That's
4
unreal.
or 5 years.
So you make sure you put on a really good crew, and from what I've seen through your social media and stuff, like you really look after them. Like,
I did my best, yeah. I took them to Bali on a paid holiday last year.
Yeah, you do your best.
Yeah.
That's not pretty good.
Just kind of looking after them a little bit.
I try to, because I know what it feels like to be someone who's not appreciated
Yep.
as a worker. And at the end of the day, they're all subcontractors, and they're well within their rights to go and work somewhere else if they want to.
Yep.
So it's my responsibility to give them an environment, not only that they feel like they've shaped or they're a part of and that they're proud of, but that they know they're not going to get screwed over. Like, they're going to get paid a good commission. They can work extra if they want to. I've got a really healthy mental health situation because of what I've been through personally. And because they're artists, like, I'm not going to tell someone to come to work if they're having anxiety attacks and be like, hey, do a portrait of someone's dead grandmother when you feel like you can't breathe. Like, that's a great work environment, isn't it?
It's Tuesday. You're meant to be here.
Yeah, like, why are you late?
Yep.
Oh, he was crying in the car. Well, hurry up. Because that's what it's like.
Yeah,
That's
really.
what the industry is like.
Fuck. So it's pretty exciting to see that you're just trying to change it, essentially.
Well, it's the whole ripple thing. It's like, and people feel it when they walk in the shop. They're like, oh, the vibes here are so fucking cool. And I'm like, yeah, they
So
are.
imagine if like one of your girls went and opened up another shop somewhere else, but continued doing what you're doing. And then that
Well,
would be a
that's-
ripple effect, right?
For
It's just
sure.
more and more.
Absolutely. Like, obviously, I don't want any of my family to leave
Yeah.
my fempire, but if they're going to and they need help
Yep.
to continue that and to
Yep.
continue to change the industry, then I'll be their biggest fan.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Because it sounds like, pretty rubbish
Yeah.
industry in
Yeah,
some.
but so many industries are, and that's because lots of people who are in charge of those industries are perpetuating the culturescape. They're not looking at something and going, how can I make this better? Like, how can we evolve? How can I make people happier? They're like, how can I get my wallet fatter?
Well, they're doing something they don't want to do.
Well,
In
they've been
most cases.
and they've been taught to do that. Like,
Exactly.
you're not
they
successful unless you're loaded.
Money is their only
Okay.
sense of success, or their only measure almost.
Yeah, well, they've been taught that.
Yep.
And ultimately, when we were saying before that whole stage 4 being an extraordinary person thing, that's part of being an extraordinary person, is looking someone in the eye who's doing something shit and saying, I understand. I have compassion for you. I understand why you're behaving this way. Sometimes people aren't open to learning a better way, but if you perpetuate that like hatred and unacceptance and intolerance of that person behaving that way, then you're still contributing to the problem. So you just have to do your thing and make people feel better about it, and inspired action comes out of that.
How much of, I guess, backpedaling a little bit, it's kind of a two-part question, but how much of what you do now, and I think you've answered it, but is backed by all the trauma that's happened in your life? And do you believe that everyone needs to experience some sort of trauma to get to the point of becoming awakened or finding their why?
I think that that's just simply the duality of the dimension that we live in. So there's good and bad, positive, negative, up and down, and that's how we're governed. And I do believe that people need to experience trauma to affect change, but it's not comparative. So someone might look at my story and be like, oh my God, your dad killed himself and you got raped. That's horrible. That's like the worst kind of trauma. But someone whose parents just simply didn't support their thoughts or feelings could also feel just as bad as I did.
It's trauma, yeah.
So it's still going to propel them in the direction of, this is happening to me, or life can happen from me.
Yeah.
And that depends on the ripple effect.
I guess it also comes back down to having, I guess, people around you and an environment around you to allow that to happen.
Well, you have to elect a tribe, and that's something that we're missing a lot in modern community now. Like, not just women with women and men with men, but just a tribe of people who are doing things, saying things, acting certain ways, making us feel things that are inspiring and that make us feel like we belong and that we have community and we're supported. Because things like depression and suicide don't really exist in that environment.
No, they don't. But unfortunately, as a society, it does.
Well, it does. And you're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you're constantly around miserable cunts all the time who are like, my fucking life is shit, I hate everything, my boyfriend's an asshole, I'm broke, like...
Yeah, it's funny how your life will probably reflect that.
Yeah, well, that's the vibrational frequency you're tuning into.
Yep.
So you can't listen to Nova when your radio station's on B105. You got to change it.
Bam.
The best analogy you could have used. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's just the way it is, though. That's our reality. It's all frequencies, energy, vibration. You get to choose. You don't have to subscribe to bullshit that you don't believe in. You just choose something else.
And this sort of ripple effect you're trying to create, like, is that the reason behind writing a book?
There's a couple of reasons why I wrote my book. The main one is because I didn't want to own the story anymore.
Yep.
So
Cool.
I believe that if you drag your stories with you, then they continue to shape your future. And I don't believe that time is linear. So I believe that time is circular, so that if I'm constantly bringing my past with me all the time, it's going to shape my future self as well, and my present self. So whatever work I'm putting into my present self can actually also, in effect, change my previous self.
Yeah, cool.
So if you're a person who believes in rebirth and life cycling, if I heal that now in this lifetime, I won't have to suffer that again.
You won't have to suffer it again. And what was the process of publishing a book like?
I had a couple of companies that wanted to publish it, and they heavily tried to audit and screen and filter the things that I had to say.
How did you like that?
I fired them. And I self-published on Amazon
You
instead.
did it yourself?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
What's your book called? Sorry.
It's called The Modern Maiden, From Misery to Majesty.
Yeah, that's such a really good title. Like, I'm just like really bought into that straight away.
Yeah, we're all getting
And
on
it's
Amazon later and
available-
downloading that.
It's on Kindle too.
So
If you're a tight
available
ass.
on Amazon, you said,
Yep.
and hard copy and
And Kindle.
sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
I'll put that all up in the show notes if people want to check it out.
yeah.
How
It's
long's
a
it been
bit
out for?
just under a year.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
How's it tracking?
I've never checked.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess that really ties in with you. You've written your story and you want to leave all that stuff
Yeah.
behind. And
Yeah, I just
the
get
book is done. And
I just open my banking every now and then because I
There's
don't
some money
check
in
that
it.
very often either. And sometimes I see Amazon in my list, like they've put my check in, and I'm like, cool, man. Like I got enough to live. I have a good life. I get to travel and I can help people. I donate to charity. I don't need to check what the numbers are in my list.
that's unreal. So
There's-
do you think in like another, I guess the time wouldn't really matter, but there'll be a time when you'll sit and you'll write the next book to leave the next bit behind?
Well, I'm working on 3 books
There we go.
at the moment. One is a continuation of Modern Maiden, but it's called Modern Mother. So it's about growing up, basically. So when you turn 29, you have a thing called a Saturn return, and basically those 29 years you have to work on closing out your trauma, and that's when you're actually an adult. So it's not 18, it's 29.
Wow. Boys and girls?
Everybody.
Sweet.
Yeah.
How old are you?
27.
Yeah, you still
Yeah,
got
so it's a
time.
really great time to start. I started when I was 27. I had a really shitty relationship. Dude cheated on me. I wanted to kill myself. Everything in my life caught up with me, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And 27 was the year that I sought my first coach, because I never saw a counsellor, never saw a psychologist help me with anything. Employed a coach to help me heal, and I skyrocketed from there. So I had like 2 intensive years, and 2 intensive years of self-focus is equivalent to 25 of
See, I
half-assed
feel
work.
like I'm in that phase of coming out of, I guess, like really discovering who I am, my purpose, and like making, what's the word? All I can think of is making gains. I guess building traction into my purpose,
That's
into
gains,
my
mate.
why.
Yeah, still gains.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to say gains, but I
Gains is
didn't
your
want to say
thing.
gains. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
It's still
Yeah.
relative though.
But like, yeah, as you said, like trauma, experience and starting to become aware of it, learning to deal with it, and then you're left with this, okay, cool, now I need to recode.
That's right, yeah. So you're going into that stage 3, like what do I need to remove, unlearn, install to become an extraordinary person?
It's a good place to be.
It's dope.
Yeah, it's like cool.
I'd do it all again. I'd go through everything that I've been through. I'd sit in my car crying by myself every
Change
night.
nothing.
I would not change a single thing.
Yeah, because it's all led you to this point. You can't go, fuck, because I wouldn't have gotten to this point if I hadn't experienced all that.
It's not negative to me now, though. I don't look back on those hours of desperation in my life and feel sorrow about it. I look back at that stuff now and not like, oh, I'm so grateful for it, because it sucked. But I
love those people that go through all this shit and they're like, oh, but I'm so grateful to have it. It's like, cunt, no, I'm not.
Exactly. Like, don't be a dickhead.
I wanted to kill myself.
Literally. Like, I was thinking about different ways to kill myself.
Yeah, like, it wasn't fun.
I'm not grateful for that.
I'm not here being like, this is sick, bruh.
Yeah,
Look,
you should try and kill yourself and see what happens to you.
Like, shut the fuck up. Acknowledge that it's a bad
that it was
situation.
Shitty. Yeah.
But you can learn from it.
Yeah. And also, I might not get to be a human again. So the reference with that is that if I'm experiencing sorrow or pain, that's still the range of human emotions that's my privilege to experience. So if I'm looking at it that way, I am very grateful that I know what sorrow feels like, because I get to be a human.
But I guess for me, I've always looked at it as well as like, you can't really experience happy, whatever fucking emotion you want to call it.
Well, it's the universal law of opposites. You don't know one if you don't know the other.
Yeah, you need to know both end ranges.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can live your
Stuck in
life
the
as a potato if you really want, but
That was one of our questions.
you're on the clock. And
That
like
was a question,
I've
yeah.
said to Johnny before, you have on average 85, 86 years of chances, basically, to accelerate yourself and completely experience the human experience. Like, why the fuck are you wasting it? You might not get it again.
Dumb shit. Like, fucking do what you want and don't harm others.
Or at least try.
Yeah.
Just start. You don't have to like win everything, but start.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think will be next? If obviously talking believing in rebirth and things like that.
After this life?
What's after this meat suit?
I don't know. I think it depends on how much of my karma and my lineage I address.
Yep.
And what I'm able to release. And I don't know, maybe I get to go live in a different dimension, or I don't get a body, or maybe I get another body because I fucked too many things up in this cycle.
You gotta go again.
Or maybe when it's my time to master the art of dying, I'll get scared and try and keep my body, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
That's pretty cool.
What do you mean, sorry, by master the art of dying? That was intriguing.
Yeah, so that's living,
Oh, right.
basically. So
Yeah, I get it.
yeah, when you get a human, you're trying to master your exit, aren't you?
I've never thought of it that way.
A lot of people die, I want to do this before I die. What's on my bucket list? What's this? Like, when's my end date? How am I going to die? What's it going to be like? What's after death?
Yeah. Never looked at it like that.
So when you don't believe that there's separation, then you're just retiring the body, not everything else. So I don't have the answers to what happens after that. But like, you wake up a baby. You don't really have consciousness when you're a baby. No one can remember coming out of their mum's vagina. It arrives at a point where you arrive in your body. So what, there's like, if we're in this dimensional reality, then that process has to repeat. It might not be another body, but it's still another birth somehow.
Cool.
Johnny's just like, sick.
It is.
So let's think a little bit shorter term. What's on next for you? Obviously, you got 3 books coming up.
Yeah, so Modern Mother. I'm illustrating a coffee book, table book that I'm working on, a good friend of mine with, called Cosmic Cunt.
Cosmic cunt.
Which is all about vagina magic.
Yeah.
So
Could it be called The Cosmic Cunt and the Magical Vagina?
there could be a sequel. We were talking about doing one for children to teach like girls about their menstrual cycle, and I was like, maybe not cunts for kids. I don't think. I'm not sure that's appropriate.
I still remember the day I found out what cunt meant. I heard it at school, and I asked my mum in the car on the way home.
Yes, Mum.
And she was like, don't you ever say that again.
Well, actually, you can go back and tell your mum that process I explained to you before about the cervix, the vagus nerve, and the larynx is actually where the whole cunt thing comes from, because that's like an ancient term for speaking from the vagina.
I'm going to let you explain that to my mother.
Mum doesn't like that you say that.
Oh, mate, she still messages me every time she listens to the podcast.
You said it again, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm like, Mum, it's my podcast.
When you use it as a term of endearment when you're a woman, you get a lot of weird looks too. Like, it means something different to me.
Yeah.
So, cunt. I'll say it as much as I want.
My mum messages you.
That's the best.
Fuck. Platform podcast, the only podcast you'll hear cunt on a lot.
I think it's every episode.
I've
I
heard a
drop
few.
it.
I listened to a few and I was
you
like,
did?
yeah, I can say cunt on this podcast. Woo!
Oh, there's no limit. It just comes out. I'm like, fuck, Brandon. It's the
Perception is reality.
So you hope to do, I guess the COVID times fuck things a little bit, but hope
Oh,
you
the
can
third book. I forgot to tell you about the third
Oh,
book.
what's the third
The
book?
third book is called Confessions of a Cupcake, and it's all of the awkward, mysterious, and wonderful sexual encounters that myself and all the women I know have had with men over the years.
Yes.
Confessions of a Cupcake.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a few famous people in there that we've had to rename as well.
You just
It's a bit
change their
juicy.
names.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
To shit that's real similar, but
Yeah.
not suable.
We might need to buy that one too.
I was just gonna be like, off air, just drop a name and we'll go with
Yeah,
it.
can we get an off the podcast story or maybe one of those?
That costs extra.
Oh, yeah, deal. Another one of those?
No, thank you.
We'll get you a good coffee for that one.
I'll think about it.
When do the books come out?
I probably won't be till the end of this year, start of next year.
That's still pretty sweet. We'll be getting on those. Well, then you'll have to come back
One thing at a time. Yeah.
when they come out, I think.
Yeah, I
We
think
can-
my tattoo calendar's out till September now, so I need
Wow.
Well, of course, you had to shut down, didn't you? And then backlog.
to. Yeah, I mean, we're usually booked out for a few months in advance anyway.
So, fuck.
But yeah, so I've got a couple of days off to try and illustrate and write in those days. But I also launched a company called Ink Holidays before I left, which is like Kentucky for tattooing in between Australia and Bali.
Really?
And that smacked really hard, and then 2 weeks later, COVID ruined everything, and I had to refund it all. So
So like tattoo holidays, go on a holiday.
yeah, so I pretty much live in Bali part time, and I've contracted a few of what I think are the best shops over there.
Yep.
And I've also contracted a local tour company, hotels, airlines and stuff
Yeah.
to put together packages basically. So people want to do fitness, they can go and like train at Bali MMA or
Yeah.
go to CrossFit Wanderlust, and
Yeah.
they have like a whole experience, and then there's 1 or 2 days of tattooing at the end.
Cool.
So it's like a party one, a spiritual one, an island hopper one.
Yep. Fuck, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
the market's already there, and
Yeah.
there's not really an answer for
Let's
it.
go on holidays and get ink, bro.
Yeah, down. Cool.
I'll come just because I like going there.
Deal. If we can podcast in Bali and then it's a tax deduction.
Now you're thinking. I like that frequency.
Yeah. And then perhaps the ink can be built into the price somehow. We'll tax deduct that
Yeah,
too.
well, we'll just get the platform tattooed on us.
Just get a small logo.
Could we? I would.
Take a photo in front of like Librissa or something with it. Like, hey, to the podcast.
But, yeah.
Where do we put it?
Butt
would we
cheek.
put it? Oh, yeah, it'd have to be
Gotta
on the butt
be.
cheek, right?
Piss
I'm gonna
take
put it on
tattoo's
the
got to
heart.
start on the butt cheek.
On the heart.
'Cause this means so much to me.
I thought that's where my name went.
Oh, yeah. It's right. Yeah, we're actually arranging that right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Fuck. Let's hit it.
Well,
oh, man. This could go anywhere. These
Yeah,
are
this
the
is
most
good.
broad questions ever. They're supposed to be rapid fire.
you're supposed to not have heard them already.
I can't remember them anyway.
Perfect. Biggest lesson you've learned?
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
If you could live underwater, would you?
I feel like there's conditions that I need to know before I answer that.
What conditions?
Do I
you're
get
allowed out.
gills?
Yeah. Do you want gills?
Maybe.
Okay, if you want them, you can have them.
Are there other people underwater, or is it
Yeah.
just me?
Well, Brock is going to be there. He wants to be under the water. I also like underwater. Are you going to be under the water?
No.
You're not under the
I'm
water.
not a water. No.
Okay.
Which is
there'll,
weird.
There'll be some people there.
I don't want to commit to this. I feel non-committal.
What's your biggest challenge?
In life,
Anything?
keeping my thoughts clean about self-worth and body image.
This is probably the biggest question than that one. Is cereal a soup? Why or why not?
It is absolutely not a soup.
Really?
Thank you. Thank you.
It's very similar.
It's not.
Well, look, panthers and house cats are similar too, but one of them's going to fuck you up.
Her analogies are great.
Yep. What conspiracy theory do you think is real?
Elite pedophilia rings.
Ooh.
Wait, are you saying that they are real?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry. I always get confused with that question.
What's one of your rules?
I won't have sex with anyone that I wouldn't want to be.
Cool. Would you or have you joined a cult?
I haven't.
Would you?
Haven't.
Maybe.
Yeah. How many chickens to kill an elephant? How many do you need?
Elephants don't eat other animals, do they?
Maybe this one does.
I don't believe they do.
No, I don't think they do either.
They don't want to eat it.
No,
I feel like only one, to be perfectly honest, because a chicken could sacrifice itself and stick its beak in an elephant's foot and it could get an infection and die, and then they're both dead.
Yeah.
That's 2 answers now where they've played the long game.
If we were to look at the numbers, I think one's been the most popular amount.
Oh, fuck yeah. I said 1,000 or something.
Well, it would take a lot of chickens to swarm an elephant.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of
That was my
chickens
method.
there. Swarm method.
And they're not particularly aerially gifted, so...
No, they're not. Your life's a video game. What cheat code would you like, or do you currently have?
Superhuman healing powers.
Yes. Now, you've just been arrested. What does your family and or friends assume you've been arrested for?
Inciting a riot.
You haven't done one yet?
No comment.
Oh, that was the 10 questions. Sorry, I always forget this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Where can the people find you?
On Instagram, if they want to look at the tattoo stuff, it's Black Ivy Tattoo. Or my personal is mysticmadam_tattoo. Or my website is katiemaree.org. And the book is on amazon.com and .com.au.
Oh, so US and yeah, cool. I'll put that all up in the show notes as well. Let people find you out. It's always weird when we ask you this question, then I'm just like, I'm just going to put it in the show notes anyway. But yeah.
Well, that's fine.
I forgot the other thing. So thank you so much. And now we're going to clap.
Can
Ready?
I clap too?
Yes.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Can we count it in?
3,
Count in.
2, 1.
Hello.
You need to say more.
Hello.
More than that.
More, More than that. How you going? That's great. I'm very happy for you.
Ready?